Hello, everyone. Welcome to EcoWell, a step towards sustainable and accountable living. So today we have Vani Murthy ma'am with us. Before I introduce her to you all, I'm sure most of you are fans. I'd like to mention that we've crossed 1,050 registrations for this event. I know there are only 200 participants as of now, but I'm still expecting all of them to join eventually. But this is the first time I think we've crossed 1,000 registrations for an online event, at least in Rotrack events that I have seen. So I think it all comes down to Vanimuthi ma'am's fandom. I can say that. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for accepting to do this. And to start off, let me give you guys a brief summary of Vanimurthy, ma'am, what she is. She's an avid composer, an urban farmer, a passionate citizen leader. She's the founding member of Solid Waste Roundtable, Be Careful Malleshwaram, Clean Green Workshops. She's a TEDx speaker, and she's a speaker on numerous other platforms as well. And today, she's an expert in composting, urban farming, social media documentation, and press coverage. She's won numerous awards. To name a few, Nanda Nandalala Seva Samiti Trust awarded her with Nanda Deepam Award in 2018, and in Bangalore TEDx, she was awarded as a speaker 2015. So she's been doing this wonderful events ever since, from a lot of years. So, ma'am, are we ready to start off with the session?
Yes, yes.
So before we start with the session, I just wanted to show this one photo to all the fans here. She was also a cricketer in her younger days. So you can imagine how active she used to be, and you can, I'll leave the rest of the imagination to you guys. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Chetan. Thank you so much. And good afternoon to all of you. It's always a pleasure to talk to groups of people. Every platform that I am offered to, I grab because I need to reach out to as many people as possible to talk about what's important, how we all can participate to mitigate the climate change, what are things that we can do, how do we look at, to live a sustainable life, and what is zero waste, what is composting. So a lot of things that need to be introduced into people's lives because it should become a part of the who we are, part of our lives. So today's session, I will. It's going to be a lot of things. Okay. In this 1 hour, probably a little more than an hour, we'll try to cover as much as possible because a lot of topics to go through, right from problems of waste, landfill, how it affects our environment, and composting, segregation, and how we can look at creating home cleaners without chemicals. So lots to cover, and we have got so many questions that have come up. It's impossible. I have them right in front of me. If I have to start answering every question, it's going to take a full session. Maybe we should do one session just for the questions. What I will try to attempt is all the questions that are part of the process. Whatever I'm going to talk about, it would become part of it. So if specific question is not answered, let me see how I can put it into an audio or something like that and pass it on to you all. So that's how it is. So waste is an issue, is a problem. Everybody knows it. You get out of your house, early morning walk, you see the streets are strewn with garbage. The dogs are pulling out things. So it's like waste is out of our homes. We don't want to keep waste in our homes. And once it goes out of our homes, we believe that it is the municipality that needs to take care of this waste. So that's the thing that we usually look at, that it is not my problem, it's end of use to me, and let me give it to the municipality, or let me leave it outside and they'll take care of it. But that's not the one which will solve the problems, because what happens to your waste once it leaves your home? For us, it's very important to go on that journey, because 11 years back, when I took that journey to the landfill with few of very concerned citizens of Bangalore, the reality struck us so badly that we are still in this space trying to talk to people. Now I have like 243 people right now, and this has been 11-year non-stop vocal kind of talk that we have been doing constantly, just to get people to understand this is extremely important for you to understand what happens to your waste. Because if you actually track your waste, you will find it either it would be in your drains, or it will be burning somewhere. Usually waste, just to make reduce the waste, people burn waste. Then the third thing is it ends up in lakes, rivers, polluting them. It's also in the oceans, and we all talk about the great Pacific patch, where so much of garbage is getting accumulated. So even the life that the other species, the lives of other species, get entangled in the mess that we create called waste. And finally, it also ends up in the landfill. We always thought landfill was a very scientific space where it is getting processed, the waste is getting processed, but unfortunately it's not so. Landfill is just a land dump. It's every day the municipality takes the waste of the city and goes and dumps it. They keep compacting it and again dumping, compacting it again. So it is just it grows like a mountain of garbage, and it's usually outside the city limits. And there are a lot of villages there which grow your food, because most of our food is growing in the outskirts. So just look at that scenario of these huge mountains of garbage. There are farmers around, and what is the issue there? It's just accumulating. But let me tell you, when most of the waste that we discharge is organic waste, the waste that comes out of a kitchen. That's the biodegradable organic waste. It's all our kitchen peels and food that we have eaten. So that waste starts to break down anaerobically, that is without the help of air or oxygen, because it's getting compacted, and that releases methane. Methane is 20 to 25 times worse than carbon dioxide, and that is what is contributing to the greenhouse gases. And we all know that greenhouse gases is the one which is affecting the climate change so much. Today everything has changed. Winters are no more winters, unseasonal rains, there are such natural disasters, flooding, so many things are happening because the climate is completely changed. And we are directly contributing to it by just sending our wet waste out. That's number one that we all need to understand. And this organic wet waste is a great resource that's getting lost in this mountains of garbage, and it is releasing things that are polluting the environment. The second thing that happens at a landfill is there's a dark fluid that runs off these landfills. It's called the leachate. It is a very potent and toxic liquid that comes out because of this anaerobic digestion of organic waste, and that enters the groundwater, and also it enters the soil around. It percolates into the soil around and contaminates the soil. And at these near the landfills, if you go and pump out water in the bore well, dark liquid comes. The water is dark in color. That shows the amount of contamination. And so the soil is contaminated, and most of our food is grown there. So what we throw is coming back to us in some form or the other. That's the universal law. It's what law of what you get back. So the air gets polluted because of methane and other gases that come out. The water gets polluted because the leachate has percolated into the water table, and the soil gets polluted because it is getting into the soil there. So the three things that most important for us to live on this planet. We don't have planet B, but in this planet, if we have to survive and if we have to live, we need these three things: good air, water to survive, and soil to grow our food. And all the three are getting damaged. So this is one thing. And other creatures, like you see the villagers around are also having a lot of issues. They have lung issues, breathing issues, they have skin issues because of the landfill there. and what we could not take care in our own backyards, we are trying to damage somebody else's living areas. So this is the harsh reality of a landfill. And when we came back after visiting the landfill, we decided to form this group called Solid Waste Management Roundtable, and we believe that we need to meet every week to look at how we can take this across and let people know that landfill is not a solution, and decentralized waste management is a solution, that every citizen participates in the city's waste management. So that was very clear for us, and we started rolling out a lot of campaigns. And we are still in this space trying to do as much as we can to get this going, get more and more people aware. So after knowing about what happens in the landfill, the next step is all the solutions that we are looking at. So the most of the session is about what are the solutions available. So if waste is such a resource that's getting lost, like if you look at, if you do a little you take all your waste and see, 90% of what you generate is actually a resource that need not get lost because we mix it. Okay, so the best thing is to look at how we understand the waste that we generate. Firstly, reduce the amount we are going to generate. So the first step will be for us to refuse to reduce. So what do you refuse? You refuse everything that has created stress on this planet, and you're using it once and you are discharging it. It's like a single use disposable. We cutting down trees to make paper, and then we make paper cups and then use it once and we throw it. It really does not make meaning, because there's so much energy, transportation, there's so much time consumed, resources consumed to make that paper cup, and then we just throw it away after we drink. So in any of your get-togethers, parties, weddings, just make sure that you don't generate this waste. That's the first primary thing. Secondly, we all think that paper cups are biodegradable. They're made of paper, but unfortunately, when I put it into my compost, there was one layer of plastic in between, which will again stay forever on this planet. So we are the only species that generate waste that Earth can't digest. So that is the problem with the humankind, that we are constantly generating and throwing, and for generations these plastic and other styrofoam and other things will stay on this planet, and it will not disappear. It will become into smaller and smaller particles, affecting life on this planet. So that's something that we all can make changes and see how. So there are other single-use disposables that we all need to look at, right from saying no to a bottled water, right? Because this is something, again, as I told you, we pump out oil to the petroleum out of the ground, and and make this, mold this plastic with a lot of chemicals. Then we fill water, then it comes to the store, we buy it and we drink it, and once we use it, we throw. So best is to look at how to, if you want to be sustainable, carry your own bottle. Always make sure that you can you're having this bottle, you can refill wherever you want. So that's the looking at how I can put less stress on the resources that are available, because resources are not going to be there forever. So what are we leaving behind for generations that are going to come ahead of us? Is it going to be depleted resources? We need to ask that question to ourselves, and mindfully start to consume. What is important and how important it is what we need to look at. Then there are other things like, if when we are gifting, we make sure that we don't give things that are, again, non biodegradable, and also they are they become waste after using, because this is a multi packaging, can't be recycled also. And a lot of things in birthday parties, balloons, they they cannot get cycle. So best is to avoid all these, go for packaging that is more eco-friendly, and try to be creative about packaging with left things, when there is an old cloth or a leftover paper. And always carrying a bag with you instead of accepting a plastic cover could be another way that you say no. You start reducing the amount of plastic that you're generating. So carry your own bags, and cloth bags, jute bags for any shopping that you do. And of late, people are giving bags like this, saying it's cloth bag, but unfortunately, we have to recognize this is not a cloth bag. This is non-woven polypropylene. So there are no stitches here, but it is compressed. This is nothing but plastic, and this cannot be recycled. So please be aware not to accept this non-woven polypropylene bags. They look like this and they are not good for us. If you burn them, they will burn like plastic. So that's another thing that we can completely avoid. So even in weddings and functions, like there is Gauri Ganesha, there are other functions that come, people give in bags like this, you know. They give tambulam, that is, they give the coconut and other things. These are again same non-woven polypropylene. They look very pretty, but they're not good for us. Thank you. They're not good for the planet, so we should avoid them. These are, they look nice, they look pretty, but best is to go for cotton, you know, reusable cotton, or get some NGO to stitch with you know, tailoring waste, so that you completely avoid things that you need not generate, which will become waste soon. So that's another thing that we can look at. And then there are, you know, these are paper. They say it's paper plate, but there is this one layer of plastic with a coat of metal. Again, non-recyclable because it's a multi-layer. So we should all look at how we can, you know, like in the old days, serve our guests in whether it's weddings or it's any serve and cutlery that is reusable. Everything, right from your spoons to your cups, everything has to be reusable, not anything that is single use and thrown. So these generate, these become waste after use, and also they cannot digest, you know, they just don't, they end up in the landfill, you know, and contaminating. So plastic spoons, so we can say no to all these, and every bit of plastic that we can save from getting out of our homes or ending up somewhere, we can. So when you cut the milk packet, make sure you leave this piece, because when you cut it completely, this piece, every day, just imagine each of us cutting two small packets or one big packet, and this getting out with your garbage into the landfill, or it's getting burnt. Again, we don't want that to happen. So leave it in the packet, so that you know, you are careful on not generating that little waste that would get lost somewhere and hurting this planet. Then, you know, plastic straws. You know, we all have seen lots of videos about the turtle, where the, you know, plastic straw has gone into its into its nose, and it's suffering a lot. So other species suffer because we use these once and we throw it away, and this will stay around. You go to beaches, you'll see so much of plastic being pushed back from the sea, from the ocean, anywhere, right from resorts to good lovely hill stations, you'll see lot of plastic being chucked. So best is to go for reusables. This is a, you know, stainless steel straw. Even the paper straw that people give, please don't accept, because paper again is a resource that has used some energy, and we are using it once and throwing. So the whole thing is about saying no to anything that is generated once, or used once, and then you are throwing it out. So that's something. And going back to more sustainable ways of using products, you can go for bamboo toothbrushes, bamboo clips. These are clothes clips, instead of using the plastic one which keeps breaking all the time. So we need to go back. There could be steel clips. I remember my mother used to use a lot of steel clips. So sustainability is about going back to your mother's times or your grandmother's times, when they really did not generate anything that became waste very quickly. Yeah, there was a long use of some material, and it was used for a length of time. It was passed on for generations also. So you can see how much important it is for us to think in these lines, which makes us to be people on this planet that deserve to live here, because this is the only planet that gives us what we need, and we cannot go anywhere if we trash this planet and we make it unlivable for us. The planet will continue, but we will suffer in the long run. And also moving to sustainable products like sustainable hygiene, menstrual hygiene, going back to cloth pads, or using the menstrual cup. That's really liberating for many women, instead of using the pads. These are disposable pads which have a lot of plastic. It's 90% plastic, and it has gels and all kinds of bleaches which are not good for our skin, including baby diapers. It's not just the sanitary pads that women use. It's also the baby diapers which have the same problem, that they have so much of gels which absorb moisture, and it's not good for the babies. Instead, going to sustainable ways of using cloth pads and menstrual cup. This is a silicone cup. This is like magical. Most people find it so liberating to use them because you're not generating any trash by using them. So these are alternatives, sustainable alternatives. And for I don't accept tissues. I always carry a small napkin so that, I can say no to a tissue also, because this is again paper product. We use it and throw it, and how much of it we use. Everywhere you go, you get tissues and tissues and tissues. People are using constantly. So if you have a driver or a watchman, just make sure you give a steel tumbler so that he doesn't accept the paper cups 4 to 5 times a day when he's drinking tea. When the guy comes on a cycle, so he can accept tea in the glass, and he can continue to reuse it again and again instead of generating that. So this is all about mindful consumption. It's all about understanding these are all resources that need not be stressed by our it is convenient. This is a world of, we want to be convenient. Everything should be convenient for us, but we forget what is getting damaged because of that. So once we understand that, probably we all can make the shift. So reduction is the first level. How are you going to say no to something so that you don't generate? And after that, you still generate some trash. So what do you look at? So you have to segregate your waste. That is, you have to keep all the recyclables separately. Every bit of paper, plastic, metal, glass can go back for recycling. All your kitchen waste or organic waste has to be kept separately. And there is one more like a reject waste, where there are it could be anything that is hazardous, anything that has it can be sanitary waste, it can be broken glass. So they should not get into any other. So you're creating waste streams which will divert your waste away from going to the landfill. So in Bangalore, we have the 2-bin 1 bag as a mandated segregation. We all need to do that. That is, we need to segregate our waste at source of generation. Where we are generating, that's where we need to segregate it. And in this way, the dry waste, that is the waste that can be recycled, goes to a dry waste collection center. Every ward has one dry waste collection center where it can go. You can Google search, find out what's your ward. Even in Mumbai, they have waste collection centers, dry waste collection centers. You can check out, Google search today at the finger, at the tip of fingers. You have a lot of information that you can get. So these are all good practices in managing waste, right? And once this we segregate the waste and divert it away from landfill, there is when we compost and we send waste for recycling, remaining waste is only 10% or maybe less than 10% that the municipality really needs to take care of. So, what a huge difference it will make. Instead of we are reversing, instead of sending mixed waste 100% to the landfill, we are reversing it by saying 10%. So any landfill which is scientifically run can take care of that 10%. So we the pyramid completely turns around, and we are sending minimum to the landfill and maximum we are recycling and composting. So that could be the best way to practice and contribute positively to the climate change, and each of us participating in this amazing journey that we have to understand more and more on how we as citizens of this planet, what kind of habits and systems that we need to put into our own lives, which will make us worthy living on this planet. So that's something. And next is we look at composting. Once you understand that there is around 30% of your waste is dry recyclable, and 60% is actually the kitchen waste. It is the waste that we generate from our kitchens. It is a fantastic resource. So anything that comes out of my kitchen, right from my vegetable peels to your fruit peels to your eggshells to leftover food, all this can be composted, right? So today I will talk about aerobic composting. There are different kinds of composting. It could be aerobic, there is anaerobic, and then there is vermicomposting, there's large scale composting, there's home composting, there is biogas. You can use the organic matter to create biogas. So there are different ways. So it all depends on what you want to take up, what kind of space you have. So all these needs to be factored in. But basic composting I will just talk about. It is home composting, 60% that you hold back. So it is not just that you're losing out resources if you send it out, but you're creating an amazing, soil amendment. What is composting? What is compost? Compost is nothing but organic matter that needs to go back to soil. When you look at agriculture, so you connect all the dots right now. When you look at agriculture today, how is our food grown? What kind of land on which it is grown? It is completely deprived and depleted of any organic matter, because there's excessive use of chemicals, chemical fertilizers, there are pesticides, herbicides, all sorts of chemicals have been put into land or put into agriculture, which is completely degraded the land. And why? Because there is no organic matter going. And where is the organic matter going? It's going into the landfill, creating more problems for the environment. It's creating methane. So if we could just hold back this amazing resource and say this is compostable, and composting is a experiential learning. It is not like I read a book or see a video and I can compost amazing. No, it is to get your hands dirty, look at how you can learn. Even if you fail, what are the learnings? There is a learning curve in composting. Even in gardening, there is a learning curve. You cannot get all the knowledge at the same time. Only when you experiment and experience, that's where you start honing the skill. I always call composting, there is a science behind it, but what we need to understand is the art of composting. Its art is only like cooking. How do you cook? You can't make a great dish on the first time you cook. You need to do several repeats of the same dish before you really hone the skill of getting that dish the right way, the perfect dish that your mother or your grandmother made. So that's the learning curve that we all need to understand. So don't hesitate about composting. It is okay to fail. It is okay to fail multiple times, but never give up, because this is one action we all take every day to mitigate climate change, right? Every day, because this is the bulk of the waste that goes out of our home. And if this can be converted into this amazing soil, we all start learning what is safe food, right? And why are we losing out amazing organic matter to the landfills instead of putting it back into soil and grow our food? So you learn about what is safe food, how important nourishing food should be to us. Unless the land is nourished with organic matter, your food will never be as nourished. So we talk about immunity today, we talk about so many things, and all of these are directly connected to the way we deal with the waste that we generate. So it's ultimately that. So let me take you through a simple composting process. When you look at the process of composting, one is the green. This is the green matter. This is high in moisture. There is a lot of water content. As this starts to break down, there's be a lot of water. So what is composting? The process itself is breaking down organic matter, and ultimately at the end of the process, it becomes an amazing nutrient in the soil that feeds the plant. The plants absorb these nutrients, and it encourages life in the soil. So when you have organic matter, it's a living soil. There is so much of microorganisms, earthworms, there are insects. So all kinds of lives thrive in the soil, and a living soil is so important for this planet, right? Every topsoil should be a living soil. If it is completely devoid, you will not have, if that life goes away in the soil, then you won't have life on this planet. So that's a sad part, and we don't understand that until we get into this and start learning how to, create that great soil. So this is the green matter. It is high in nitrogen and high in water content. And the second thing is the browns. The browns are dry leaves. If we could collect the dry leaves in and around our house, now it's rainy season, but during the season when the dry leaves fall, if we could collect everything and crush them and keep, they are a fantastic resource, because this is great carbon source. It is dry, and it balances the wet. So composting is all about the balance between the nitrogen and the carbon. So the wet waste, which is high in nitrogen, and the dry leaves, both needs to have a proper proportion. As you do, you will know it. I can't tell you you put this much of that and that much of, as you do, you should know that there is a balance that comes where it should be too soggy. If it got too soggy, that means you had more of the green matter. If it got too dry, you got the browns, more of the browns. So somewhere along you will get the balance to it. Till you do it, you will not understand what that balance is all about. So these are the two main ingredients that you need for composting. The third thing that you need is microorganisms to accelerate the process. In the natural world, nature takes care of the breakdown. You throw these peels, you throw banana peel in the ground outside, and within a week you don't see the banana peel because it becomes a part of the soil, because the microbes in the soil break it down, right? Same way we need to mimic that. Sorry, I'll just get some water. We need to mimic that, and when we do that, we are accelerating the process of composting, that we are getting that to happen at faster rate. A lot of people come out with we can do compost in 24 hours. We have 24-hour composting machine. Please don't fall for that, because it's one of the most scary things that have come up of late. They sell these very expensive machines to apartments and campuses, telling them this in 24 hours you can get compost. No compost can happen in 24 hours. It is a natural process. It has its time. It breaks down at particular. What happens in those 24-hour composting machines? It burns the waste. It just burns the waste. It uses electricity. It stings. They don't come back to, even if something goes wrong, the service is bad. So please don't fall for that. That's a warning that we have all been giving. Even Dr. Sultan Ismail, who is a soil scientist, says that whatever they call it as compost after burning is actually bad for the soil. It doesn't help the soil, but it actually hurts the composition of the soil. So please don't fall for that. So what kind of other brown materials that you can use? If suppose you don't have dry leaves, you can use sawdust, right? And you can also use cocoa peat. And when we as a group, we launched Swachhagraha. That was our campaign. We also launched a brick like this, which when soaked in water, it becomes like like a powder. And this powder has both the microbes and the browns. So it's much easier for people who don't know where to collect dry leaves and how to get dry leaves. So it makes it easier for them. So this is something that we had introduced, and a lot of vendors have this. You can check online. It's called the compost making brick. So it makes it easier for you. But what I'm trying to talk right now is what is available in your house that you can compost with. So the microbes can be in different forms. One of the simplest and the easiest microbial culture that I add to my compost to accelerate is sour buttermilk. Just take curds out, leave it for 2-3 days, it becomes sour, then make a buttermilk and keep just 1 spoon of this for a couple of weeks. You just add, and then it kick starts the composting process. There are other dry powders that are available in the market which you can add to break down quicker. There are waste decomposers that are available. So there are different ways that you can add. Even if you go out and there is a tree, a lot of leaves have shed and the leaves have become brown, dark in color, and they are moist. Just pick a handful of those leaves and they have enough microorganisms to kickstart your composting process. So that's it. And cow dung is again another of my favorite accelerator that I use when I do composting, because Desi cow dung is excellent. It has fantastic microorganisms which help the organic matter break down very quickly. So these are some of the accelerators that you can add, or microbes that you can add. And the fourth thing that you need is a container. So you can take any container. There are terracotta containers, there are plastic containers, there are n number of vendors who are selling, or you can make it yourself. Take an old paint bucket, put some, this is an aerobic composting, that is, it needs air. Without air it will not. So the last thing that you need to know is, in aerobic composting, oxygen is very important, because the microbes that break down this organic matter, they are like us, they need to breathe. The minute they are starved of any air, then they will perish. So when you're composting, when every time you put your you add your wet waste along with your dry leaves and then put some accelerator, then every day it starts to compact at the bottom, and then it starts to smell. So a lot of people say, oh, I started composting, it started to smell. The smell comes because the lower parts didn't have enough oxygen, they got compacted like in the landfill. And so you need to turn the pile once in a while, once into 4 or 5 days. If you turn the pile, then it helps you to keep the aeration going. So that's the last thing. So you can take a bucket like this, and you start, you put a little bit of dry leaves at the bottom. This is just a sample bucket I'm showing. You put a dry leaves at the bottom and start, you add both, you add both the dry, the wet and the dry together, mix them up, add the accelerator, and then put it. As you start piling into your bin, the minute it fills up, keep turning it once in 4 or 5 days. Once it fills up, leave it and move to another bucket or another container. It takes around 45 days for that to break down completely to become this amazing black gold. So why do we call this black gold? Because this is the living soil. This is the living soil. This is the organic matter that the plants need to survive and to do well. So you can already see there is life already sprouting in my compost. So you can see some seed has sprouted. So this is the life-giving organic matter that needs to go back into the soil. So composting is an amazing way to do that, and it's very addictive, and composting should be tried by everybody. If only each of us could compost, I think it'll be a far better world that we leave behind, because there is a saying that we do not inherit this planet, but we borrow it from the future. And the futures don't even know how much of destruction we are doing. So if we start composting, putting organic matter back into soil, not letting this get lost in the landfills, I think we will be leaving something for these future generations that enriches them, that gives them a better quality of life, and not depend on only chemicals to grow their food. So this is available. We can all compost. There are a lot of large scale composting. If you're in apartments, there is my friend Savita Hiramet has got a blog where she has documented every kind of large scale composting. So look up Endlessly Green, that is her blog, and you can check out all the different vendors who are there for large scale composting that naturally breaks down the wet waste that comes from all these apartments, and they do a large scale. So there are many such vendors. Vasuki Iyengar, my friend, he's also having lot for garden waste, for people, streets, you can use it in the streets to put your waste, and all the dry leaves. So if you maintain them well, there's no smell. Most people look at composting as it needs space. Space is not an issue. If you have a balcony, I got all these questions. If you have even a small balcony, right now I am sitting next to my balcony. I have 3 composting systems there, and I have a box where I grow my salad vegetables and my greens. So even the smallest spaces you can do. I have a vermi bin. I have a regular aerobic bin and another worm bin. So three kinds of composting systems in a small balcony. So this window is open all the time. I don't get any bad smell. So if you just understand the process and do it accordingly, I think all of us can compost successfully, and it becomes like an addiction. I've seen most of the people who get hooked on to composting don't want one peel to get lost from their home. Every peel is so valuable for them. So that is the passion with which you connect to nature, because composting directly lets you touch soil. Because once you compost, you're going to add it to your soil and grow something. And what more is more pleasurable than growing your own vegetables? It could be 4 pots which may have a tomato or a chili or a brinjal or greens, microgreens, whatever you want, you can grow. The simplest of vegetables you can grow. Start learning how the plant, responds to the kind of inputs that you have given. Because the safest food is what you grow. You have not given it any chemicals. You have put organic matter, that is your compost, into your soil. So you can see how beautifully it will grow. Of course, again, gardening is a learning curve. A lot of people have asked questions about gardening. It's another session itself altogether, because there's so much that we learn through experience. Because once when a plant doesn't do well, then you find out, talk to people who grow, and then you ask these questions, and then you learn more. So for me, I started with very few plants, because I always thought there's something called the green thumb, and I don't have a green thumb. I have been an urban person and I have not had a green thumb. That's what I thought. But then later, when I started composting and I met Dr. Vishwanath, and this urban farmers in Bangalore, I realized that, all of us can grow food. So I started with some 4 to 5 pots. That's it. And today I have a terrace full of edible, plants that are growing. So it is such a wonderful joy to, harvest fresh produce from your garden, and cook that safe food. So when we launched Swachhagraha, it was all about 3 green spots in our home. The first green spot is to compost. The second green spot is to grow something from that compost. And the third green spot is to eat safe food. Because today people are talking about organic food. Organic food is very expensive. We're not talking about organic food at all. It could be a new word. It could be from, companies and, huge corporates which are, branding it and selling it. I'm talking about natural farming, which was the traditional way of farming in our country. So find local farmers who grow food the traditional way, who still believe in traditional way. So I'm a part of a CSA, that is a community supported agriculture, CSA. And we just have weekly basket of our vegetables, fruits, which are grown by the local farmer who believes in, farming, best farming practices, natural farming practices, does not use chemicals. Then the second thing is, he grows only regional food. What is grown in my region only he will grow, and also seasonal. He will not grow what will grow in summer, in winter. He'll grow winter vegetables. What is suitable for this region. So whatever he grows is safe for me, because they come as the sustainable way of eating and living. Because anything that is local is amazing. It doesn't take carbon footprints, because if I want some exotic vegetables in the market, it must have traveled miles. It must have consumed these carbon footprints. So we look at this as sustainability. So when people talk about sustainability, it's all about reducing the impact of your actions on the planet, put less stress on the natural resources, and look at what is healthy for you. Because planet's health ultimately is your health. If the planet is not healthy, you're not going to be healthy. So how are we contributing to this? What are the behavioral changes that we, from convenience to conscious consumption should be the path how we move. So that could be the, it is available to everyone, and that could be a path we all can take. Because I promise you, once you're on that path, it is so wonderful, because every day you feel you're contributing positively. It's not like people talks very scary things about climate change. They all say it's going to have a disaster. This is what is going to happen. That's what is going to happen. But you have made a difference by just what you're doing, and by your action there'll be others who got motivated, others who got inspired. So you can see it could be a chain that we can pass on, and get into groups, try to spread the word about living lightly on this planet, not being a burden. Because the more waste that we generate, we become a burden. Look at how there are sustainable alternatives, how we can reduce packaging. So many questions came. So how do you choose what to package? So all these are a part of the how we evolve. You cannot have everything together. So you can't have everything together. It is a slow process. When we started at one thing at a time. So take it slowly. Make sure that you don't give up because you're confused or you're stuck somewhere. Reach out to people who understand. We are no experts. When he introduced, I am no expert at all. I'm a practitioner. I just practice and I talk about my practice. I can't talk about anything that I don't practice. So in all the questions that you got, I can answer every question that I practice, but what I don't practice, I have no. Because if you ask me about community composting, I don't have much experience in it, so I can't talk. So I will divert you to Savita Hiramat. So that's what. We don't need to learn everything. whatever we need to learn is what we need to put in practice, what we need to put in practice regularly, so that it becomes sustained, in our lives. It sustains in our life. So that's the way to go. And I think it is learning constantly. It's awareness, learning, and practicing. These are only three things that we need to do on a long term. And after COVID, we are all going back into times when we were consuming everything without thinking. We can still continue that, reduce our pollution, travel less, and so many things we can look at, because we saw during COVID, there were so many advantages the environment had. It was like it was regenerating. Everything was fresh. You saw less pollution around and all that. So I think this could be a way to go. How much time do we have?
Ma'am, you can continue for another 15-20 minutes, ma'am.
Yeah. So I'll talk about natural cleaners now that we have done understood the waste management, what are the problems and what solution lies with us, because my waste is my responsibility should be your hashtag. Whenever I generate, I should know what will happen to this at the end of its life. So once we understand all that, I think all of us, it becomes pretty simple for us to take action. The next thing that I want to talk about is natural cleaners, because there are so many things we could talk about. It's like the bioenzymes and the natural cleaners is what I want to talk. It is one of the best things that I have done, that I've kept chemicals out of my house. So everything that I use to clean everything, right from the shampoo that I use on my hair, to dishwashing, to laundry, to floor cleaning, to cleaning my stove and other things, the bathroom, everything is natural cleaners. So it's not very difficult, because what comes out from nature is going back to nature. So you're not discharging things from your home that could contaminate nature. So today all the products that we get have so much of chemicals in them, right from your Harpix to your all your shampoos. Everything has chemicals, which is not good for us over a period of time, because maybe those fumes and other things could it could go through our skin also and get into our body. We never know why so much of cancer is happening today. So natural cleaners, that is bioenzymes, is nothing but using peels. So I have been collecting these citrus peels in my refrigerator, because you don't eat a lot every day. So you collect to a certain amount. So there is a proportion for bioenzyme. Bioenzyme is nothing but a fermentation process of these citrus. I do only citrus enzymes. I don't do any other vegetable enzyme. A lot of people do with other vegetable peels also, but I have not tried. So I can only talk about citrus enzymes. Now these, there is a proportion. It is 1:3:10. One will be 1 part of jaggery. So suppose you take 100 grams of jaggery. Jaggery will be 100 grams. Then the 3 part is 300 grams of citrus peels. It could be musambi, orange, lemon, pineapple, anything that is citrus based is 300 grams, and 1 liter water, right? So this is the proportion that you put. I have chopped them into small pieces. You don't have to. You can even put large pieces, because I chopped them into at a smaller lid. So that's why I chopped it. You don't have to chop it small. And this has been seeping in this. So 1 liter water, 300 grams of citrus peels, and 100 grams of jaggery goes into a plastic container. Never any other container, because glass will break, because this is a fermentation method. And this takes 3 months to form the enzyme. The enzyme forms after 3 months. But every day in the beginning, you need to open it and release the gas. Keep this in a dark, cool place. That's how the fermentation happens. It should be in a dark, cool place, not in the sunlight. You should not leave it out in the sun. So this is the process. And at the end of the 3-month cycle, you get the thin liquid that I put it in a spray can. And this is what I use. I have diluted this. This is not a strong one. I spray it on tiles. I spray it on the stove. I spray it on the counter. So anything that needs the glass panes windows you want. So just spray and wipe it off. That's all. It's got a lovely citrus smell. And this enzyme is a fantastic sanitizer. It cleans, it takes off grime, it takes off dust, it takes off oil, everything. So that's about the citrus enzyme. You get a lot of information online about citrus enzymes. So the thing to remember is that the pulp also can be used when you drain out the liquid. Uh, at the end of 3 months, you drain the liquid, and the pulp can be used again to clean your chimney or anything like that. Keep it in a small thing. You can use that as a paste for cleaning. That's amazing. And another thing is, how do I make shampoo or anything that needs soap? So we have natural soaps. All of us know about soap nuts. These are called Rita. In Kannada, they say Antwala. These were the traditional ways of using soap, in back in days. So this, when you soak in hot water, you get the soap. So you can see the lather. That's the soap that comes in. And I have used a little bioenzyme in this, and I have put these. You can see those soap nuts inside, and they become my shampoo, right? And this can be also used as your laundry. In your washing machine you can add. Then you can add as a liquid wash to wash your crockery and all that, glasses and all that you can use. And if I need to wash my vessels, I use ash and shikakai, or some kind of this is the shikakai and this is the ash. I mix them together, and that is used with a natural scrub. I use a natural scrub, either coconut or this loofah. This is a sponge gourd loofah. And these are all the natural cleaners that we need to use. And I have completely stopped chemicals. My hands are soft. I wash vessels every day. We are a family. Every day morning I wash, and I've never felt this softness in my hands. When I was using chemicals, it would be very rough. I used to get cracks in my finger on my skin. So now I don't, because this is such a amazing natural way of maintaining things in your house. First of all, you're not discharging. It's not going into the waterways. It's not ending up somewhere. Yes, natural cleaners are this. I think we have completed. There are a lot of questions, but I don't know if I can take any of them. I'll just try to take one or two. Mm. Yeah, how should we bring awareness among people to avoid throwing waste in public spaces? Um, Very difficult, because most people think it's their birthright to do what they want on the roads. They will turn back and ask you, is it your father's or grandfather's road? They will ask. So it is difficult. The mindset is like that. You have to become a group of people in your area who could go and request people, and it is mandated. Go talk to the health inspector, and check out if segregation is there. How are they making sure these people are either fined or are warned for throwing stuff outside. It's the thing is, when you find fault with people or trying to find fault with people, they don't like it. So it becomes very difficult to deal with people. So I would say, first let us do our what we can, our bit, and then see how we can talk. I'm sitting here for the past 6 months. I have been talking in my drawing room, talking to so many people. So we need to shift the mindset of do one person to another person. You take one person at a time that you want to influence, or you want to motivate, or you want to kind of encourage them. That's what happens. Another question would be, I got so many composter related questions, and yeah, I think I have covered most of it. uh, I have covered most of it. So technically, I don't have much to say if you ask me. There is a question about bioenzymes. Has it lab test? Yes. Today on my Insta, Vamrani, I have posted Pranapurna have got it tested, and their sprays are better than the regular sanitizers. So they have proof for it. They have gone through testing, and yes, these natural cleaners are very effective. And uh, yeah, how to start growing your own food. Make compost first, and then that, I think, just follows growing your own food. uh, Urban farming, can I start? Of course, all of us can start. Even if you have a windowsill, you can grow something, maybe microgreens or some herbs. Yeah. And then, so if you look at Bangalore, we have a huge community of organic farmers. we call ourselves terrace gardeners, all of them growing edibles on their terraces. So it becomes a movement that you meet regularly. We have a thing called uta from your tota, that is food from your garden, and we all meet once in few months, as a in a nice lovely event, where we meet other gardeners. There are a lot of gardening products available, seeds, tools, and vegetables, and so many. You meet farmers, you meet practitioners. So it's a wonderful space, and I think most of the learning came from there. That you have these communities, and also every part of Bangalore there are gardening groups that meet regularly every month, and they exchange their ideas, and what works for them, what didn't work for them. Take In interactive sessions, they have a lot of knowledge being shared. That's, I think, the best way to get. And if only in our schools they were taught life skills like growing your own food. I think growing your own food should be a life skill that you need to be taught at a very young age. And at any point of your life, you can start off wanting to grow your food when you find little space that you can compost and you can grow. So these are some of the things that I have touched on. So it's like too many questions on the yeah. So yes, anything else? Is there any question here right on the chat? Thank you everyone for all the nice things that you say.
Do you want to take questions from them, ma'am?
Yeah, I'm just looking at that.
Uh,
Best recommended practice to use deals with existing single use. Okay. Very nice. Sonakshi says composting has truly changed her life. Okay. Context.
Yeah, I see Vishwa is raising hand. I think he has a question. Vishwajit.
What is the question? How do I know where can I get?
Vishwa, can you unmute and question?
Yeah. Can you unmute him and ask? Let him ask.
Hello, ma'am. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Ma'am, I was practicing aerobic composting. I have many mites. I mean, like issue with mites. So, how can we resolve that?
So, what composting attracts is its own ecosystem. So there will be a lot of creepy crawlies in it. There'll be maggots because the soldier fly comes and drops its eggs there, which will hatch and they will convert into maggots. See, so whatever it attracts is its ecosystem. So if you want to avoid certain things, mites you can't, it'll happen there. But if you want to avoid fruit flies, so you make sure that you cover the food waste well with a newspaper or with dry leaves, and then put the lid so that they don't hover around it. If you want to avoid maggots, then you need to not let the soldier fly get into your system. So you need to put a netting or something like that, because soldier fly is that big, it's larger than the house fly, but very harmless. So to me, whatever is in the compost pile is fine, because that is the ecosystem there. So we get comfortable with it. As long as it is there, it will have its life cycle, end of life cycle, they'll all perish, and the compost is ready for you to add to your soil. So mites and other creatures in the, microbes you can't even see, but these small insects and mites, sometimes cockroaches get into it, sometimes lizards get into it. So you need to tap it before use. So you have to, over a period of time, you understand that these are the things that compost attracts. They are harmless and they're okay. Yeah. Any other question? 9 participants raise hands.
Okay. We'll unmute one of them, ma'am.
Sure. Go ahead.
Tina, please.
Ma'am, I wanted to ask, do we need to dry the wet waste a little, because it's sometimes it's very moist?
Yeah. So not dry, but you put it in a colander or some vessel where the water drains off. Because if suppose you put some kind of liquid food, wasted food into that, it becomes too moist. So you're right, it shouldn't be too moist, but you shouldn't dry it like sun dry it, because the nitrogen should be there. Because whenever you look at a soil, a proportion, it is the CN balance, the carbon and the nitrogen balance. So the nitrogen comes only from the fresh food waste. right? Anything that is green and fresh. So you need to drain the excess water. So put it in a colander, any vessel which has holes, and drain out all the excess water and then use it.
Also, can we use like tea, the leftover tea
Yes,
and
yes. Tea,
coffee?
coffee, eggshells. You can put anything that comes from your kitchen. What can't go into a aerobic composting is non-veg waste. Because when it rots, it starts to smell and it could attract rats and other things. So you don't want non-veg waste in your kitchen, in your aerobic composting. You can do an anaerobic, that is bokashi method, and put all your non-veg. As I told you, there are different kinds of composting. I have experimented with all home composting systems. Every system is as good as it comes, and it all depends on what you want to try. So aerobic is one you can try first. So dairy and non-veg can't go into an aerobic system, but everything else, like right from leftover food to vegetable peels, fruit peels, eggshells, all of them can go in.
Rajeshwari, please go ahead.
Hi. Can you be a little loud, please? I can't hear you. No, I can't hear you.
Okay, meanwhile, Venkatesh, please go ahead and ask a question.
Yeah, thank you so much. Good evening, ma'am. I have one question. I don't know whether I can answer. I can ask this question. Do you have any bioenzyme for the sewage pit?
Did you understand that question? Can someone tell me what he asked? Because I'm not able to.
Sorry, bioenzyme we're talking about. Do we have bioenzyme for?
No, sir. Actually,
There's an
still,
echo.
yeah, there is a lot of disturbance in the this one.
Audio, yeah.
Yeah. So
My question, I don't know whether you are able. So, do we have a bioenzyme for sewage pits?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. For sewage treatment also they have bioenzymes. Yeah, you can check out on Pranapurna. Pranapurna is they have actually done a lot of research and work. So you can check out on their website and find out what kind of liquid bioenzymes they have to treat sewage, because they're treating lakes, polluted lakes and other things. So STP also there are some bioenzymes. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Any more questions? Kirti?
Yes.
Can you hear me, please?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, good afternoon, ma'am.
Yes.
Ma'am, use of bioenzyme for plants. Can you please explain?
What for plants?
Bioenzyme.
Bioenzyme for plants. Yes, bioenzymes.
Use of bioenzyme for.
You can use bioenzymes for soil application, and also
And the proportion.
proportion very dilute. It should be very dilute because you don't want to burn out the plants, but they definitely add fertility to the soil. So a diluted version proportion could be like one in 1 liter of water, 1 capful of bioenzyme could be a great addition. It can be sprayed on the plant also, but do it in the evening so that it doesn't burn the plant.
Sorry, voice problem. I couldn't hear it. Okay.
Okay. Kirti, go ahead with the question.
Okay, thank you, sir. Hello, ma'am.
Hi.
Ma'am, can we add citrus peels in compost?
You can.
But sometimes it smells very it smells like ammonia.
Citrus?
Yes.
Good. I mean, how much of citrus are you adding? You're adding along with all your peels. You're not just adding citrus.
No, I add along with my kitchen waste.
Right. So ammonia smell could come because it is becoming anaerobic. So give it a turn. Put enough dry leaves. If the pile is too wet and compacted, also you get that smell. It is not because of citrus peels, but it could be because of anaerobic digestion.
Okay. And ma'am, I want to use on my terrace. And can we do the multi-layer farming on terrace? Is it possible?
Multi-layering in the sense I have stands at three levels. So that could be my multi-layer. So I don't know what you meant by multi-layer, but you
Um,
can create these stands because when it growing on terrace, we make sure that any container is not touching the roof, because there will be moisture problem. So we
okay.
always build some kind of stand and put. So my stand is like three levels like this. So I have it is multi-layer. So I put one row, then second row, and then third row.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
You're utilizing space. If you do
Yes.
that, yeah.
Hey, ma'am.
Yes.
Uh, if plastic is used mindfully, okay, can it be sustainable?
Uh, you can't do without plastic, definitely, because plastic is everywhere. Every industry use it. We use it very extensively in our daily lives. If you're mindful of the plastic that doesn't get recycled and that becomes it's single use mostly. I think that mindfulness, yes, but still we try to reduce plastic consumption as far as possible because sometimes there are chemicals to mold plastic and they leach into our food if you store our food in plastic. So try to avoid storing food in plastic. So glass, stainless steel, like those days, steel dabbas are the best for our food, for food storage.
Ma'am, I am a beginner composter and a gardener. I have gotten coriander, methi, and I'm growing brinjal and tomato currently.
Okay.
Uh, I live in Bangalore and it's been raining for a couple of weeks. And I actually compost. I compost in a plastic bucket. I poked plenty of holes all around it. It was an old bucket and I covered it with a tile.
Mm.
What happens is when it rains, it goes in through the holes and at the lid, it's kind of that's a kind of situation. It has become wet, and after I understood that, I kept it in a dry place.
Mm.
I don't I have actually mixed it up and it's very muddy right now. I mean, very that's I'm worried that I have lost the microorganisms and it has actually drained down from the bottom. I actually used that water for the plants, but I'm not sure whether the compost is actually alive.
So you can revive it by drying it up a little bit to spread it, but shade dry it so that excess moisture goes away. Then chances of the microorganisms to revive. Because what happens is it becomes anaerobic when it's flooded with water. Then there is no oxygen, so it lack oxygen. So you could lose some of the microbes, but there will be some. But if you want the process to continue in a faster rate, we need to keep the balance. So never leave your compost bin out in the rain. That's like the lesson that we have to learn, because once too much water gets in, it delays the process, and also it starts to stink. The water that comes out of it is very nutritious. Of course, you can use it for your garden, but again, it becomes smelly at times and it's very difficult to manage.
Yes,
Ma'am,
thank you.
Ma'am Rajeshwari here. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can, Rajeshwari. Go ahead.
Ma'am, actually, I have a question about bioenzyme.
Yeah.
For example, I have an old batch of bioenzyme which I'm using for the cleaning purpose. So when I start a new batch, instead of adding yeast to it to speed up the process, can I add the old bioenzyme to it to speed up the process?
You can. I haven't tried. A lot of people do use a little bit from the old, so that it introduces the microorganisms. I haven't done. So I used to use yeast, but I've stopped that. Because I haven't told people that if you use yeast in 1 month's time, your bioenzyme is ready. If you don't use yeast, is 3. So I want it to naturally, become enzyme. So I'm leaving it for 3 months now because I've done enough. I have enough bioenzymes. So I'm giving the process a longer time and naturally to ferment.
Ma'am, I have a question on bioenzyme. I've been making it with jaggery, but now I have some brown sugar and I just noticed that it has a little bit of fungus on it. Do you think it can be used for bioenzyme or I should just compost it?
If it is black fungus, then not good. But
Okay.
you can wash it off, you can wash off the fungus and try. You can give it a try. See, anytime you get white fungus in your bioenzyme, it's great. It doesn't show the process having gone bad. But if there is a black fungus in your bioenzyme, then it's bad. So you need to discard that. But anything, a white fungus floating, no problem. You can nicely shake it and keep it. And you can skim it off if you don't want to see them, because they are all white and little bit oily they look. So,
Yeah, this sugar has fungus, not the bioenzyme.
Sugar has what fungus, white or black?
It has white.
White is okay.
It's okay, right? Okay. Thank you.
No questions.
Good evening, ma'am. This is Charanjit here.
Yes, Charanjit, tell me.
Yeah, I have a question, ma'am. I am like having problems with termites.
Yeah.
They eat up all my plants. Now, how do I take care of that?
Termites usually don't eat living plants. They wouldn't be eating living roots. Usually they eat logs and wood particles. So it must
They
be.
eat up all of them. Like, I have so big, these, foxtail palms and all. The ones they were left, they are already 10 feet high. And then the others, they all ate up. And then I had to, plant all over again. I have a lot of problem with all the trees, like, there's araucarias and silver oaks and all. I have a big garden. With all these trees also I'm growing, but then termite is the biggest danger.
I don't know. You need to treat it. I think because I have no experience. I live in an apartment and I have a balcony and a terrace. So I don't know about termites.
And for that, I have to use chemical only, that chlorpyrifos, and I don't want to use that. And how do I take care of it?
I think you could check out online the best way to use, what can you use to get the termites off.
Okay, thank you.
I don't have solution. Thank you. Sorry for that.
Thank you.
Hello, ma'am. Hi, ma'am. This is Shweta here.
Hi.
Ma'am, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
This is Shweta here, and I'm from Mumbai. I want to know how, we could use the space available. You know how Mumbai is, right? So how could we use the space available for composting? And second, we also have rodent menace. So I am scared to, even try it out because I have a baby at home as well. So how efficiently could I, look at the space aspect and not attract rodents?
So rodents will come. If you secure your compost pile, they don't get inside. So you look at a system which is well secured. They don't get inside. Because the smell is the one which attracts them, because there is food in it.
Exactly.
Yes, if you need you need some space. I don't know what kind of space you have, because you can do it indoor. You can do bokashi method indoor inside the house, which is completely easy and no issue. But it is there are two phases to bokashi. You can learn more online. But if you have space outside, like a balcony or something in these small apartments that Mumbai has, you can still compost. But make sure you keep it secure, you keep it away from rain. Once you take care of these two, I don't think it should be a problem. So don't worry about your child, because there's nothing that compost can harm, because it is a natural process, and it's just breakdown. It's happening all over, in the open, in the soil, everywhere this breakdown happens. So don't worry about that. As long as you keep it away, it shouldn't be something that you're exposing your child to.
Ma'am, I think we're running out of time. Can we end the Q&A session?
Sure. What are we saying? Because
Thank
there
you.
are still 261 people still there. So if you want to, take few more questions, I am okay with it. But it all depends on you.
Okay, then we'll take 5 more questions, ma'am.
Sure.
All right, guys, I'll lower all the hands. The first 5 people to raise hands will get to ask the question now.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead, Shubnik.
Hello, Vani ma'am. So I'm calling you from, I'm attending this from Delhi. I have a question, and this is regarding something that I am still trying to quit, which is tissue paper. What I do is I dispose of the soil tissue papers from however I have used them, and I put them in the green waste. Like obviously it will go in the green waste. However, I think it takes a very long time for it to get decomposed in the composting or everything. And I just wanted to understand, like, if there is a better way till the time I don't completely stop the use of it.
The only alternative is go for reusable. The thing I have practiced is when people come home, I give cocktail napkins which are washable. Again and again, I celebrated my son's wedding, and for all the guests we gave cloth napkins. So that's the best alternative, is to go back. I don't know, tissues, maybe they're not 100% paper, so there could be some other material in it which is not decomposing. Otherwise they should be able to decompose, especially if you used it, I mean, not the bathroom tissues, but definitely the tissues in your kitchen or what you use should be good for your composting.
Yeah, but actually my main question is regarding the bathroom tissues, because all the other tissues,
That,
like,
I don't think you should put in your compost. It's contaminated waste. Definitely not into your compost. It is sanitary waste, so it has to go into a different
going
stream.
in what container then?
The different stream, we put it in the red bin. So anything like right from condoms to band-aids to earbuds to sanitary waste, all that goes into the red bin, which is the reject bucket, which is a completely different stream altogether.
All right. Okay. Thank you so much.
Neha, please go ahead with the question.
Hello, ma'am. Hello, ma'am.
Hello.
Hi, I'm Neha. So, how can you prove effectiveness of bioenzyme to others?
How can you?
Because I prove the effectiveness of bioenzyme to others.
Prove the effectiveness. First, tell the advantages.
Yes.
That you're not using chemicals, definitely, and they are good cleaners. They are good sanitizers. They disinfect your homes, so ask people to look up online and check out on bioenzymes, because even people in your own house could be resisting it. They could say, no, these are not, they won't work,
Yes.
and all that. Yes, I get your point. So bioenzyme by itself is a fantastic disinfectant, multi-purpose, but it, along with Rita, the soap nuts and other shikakai and all that, makes it doubly good for any cleaning, right from the oils that on your vessels to cleaning any surface which has grime, dirt. It will take off, but you have to make the bioenzyme in the right way. If you don't get the right proportions, it could not be as effective. So first get the thing right and prove to them, clean and show them how good it smells so good. You're not using chemicals, because more of these chemicals, they come out as fumes when you open them and spray them. The colon that you spray on your glass to clean, there are some chemicals that will come. Maybe you're breathing them. So you can tell the disadvantages of chemicals, so that people start inclining towards natural. They are not natural. What you're using as bioenzymes are natural.
Yes, ma'am. And does it take 3 months to make a bioenzyme, or 2 months? Some say when the residue gets settled, that
No, it takes 3 months for bioenzyme to be done. But when you want to enhance it or hasten it, you put a little bit of yeast in 1 month's time. You just put maybe just half a teaspoon of yeast, and in 1 month's time, your bioenzyme will be ready.
And ma'am, one more question. I'm having a rat's problem. Today, my rats have eaten 2 stems up from the soil. So what I can do?
Rat is a big problem. That's like, you have to eliminate them. You cannot have them, because they are destructive. You have, unless you cage your terrace, you can't cage a terrace. So yeah.
No, I'm having a land.
You having?
Land area.
Land area. Oh yes, that's land is, again, a lot of rats will come because they are looking for food. So I don't know. You'll have to trap them or something like that. Yeah. Anybody else?
Mithali, go ahead with your question.
Hi, ma'am. So this is about my chili plant. So it's been like 4 months I have grown it. It's not even curling up or something, but I don't see flowering on it yet. I'm not sure what's the issue.
For 4 months, it hasn't flowered?
No, it
So
is grown properly. It's not even curling up, but I don't.
Okay, so what you do is take hing, the hing, no?
Oh yeah, yeah.
That you take a little dilute in water and you add it to the soil. Just probably it will help the flowering.
Okay. Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Hi, ma'am. I'm Medha. I'm from Hyderabad. Ma'am, I have 2 questions for you. First thing is, I try to introduce any sustainable practice at home. Can you hear me, ma'am?
I can, but you're breaking.
Okay. My family, they are okay. My family is 100% supportive because it's easier for them to, maybe put waste into different bins. So, can you help me with what we can do?
So the thing is, it's very difficult to convince people. They should see the advantages of good practices, because a lot of people will say, even if I separate and if I keep separately, the corporation will mix it, because they have that, because we don't have systems right now to support our best practices. So we would want them to go in different streams.
Yes.
Maybe in your city it's not available, maybe in your area it's not available, and you give it to the waste picker, you hand it over to him, you see they will put it in the lorry and it is again going somewhere. So people get completely demotivated to want to do it because there is no system. But we can look at how we can create that, like our group as Solid Waste Management Roundtable, we've never given up. 10 years we've been looking at how we can influence the system, how we can support the municipality to take on projects which will enforce these best practices, decentralized practices. So you need to group up together, make sure that you get the change in your locality, be a part of the resident welfare association. And yes, you must tell your people in your home, but because this is very important, give them the understanding of why waste is such a big problem, and why can't we have the practice, no matter what, whether neighbor is doing, that fellow is doing, nobody, whether they're doing or not doing, but it is my practice, let's feel good about it. That far you can go, just to request. But you will have a lot of resistance within your home, because each person looks at it differently. It's okay for them to resist because they didn't get it, they didn't understand the way you understood. So don't push your choice on them. It was your choice to take on these sustainable practices, so you cannot choose for them. So that also you have to keep in mind. Try to influence them by your practice, by the passion with which you're doing, and the commitment that you have. I think those will go a longer way.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. And another question, ma'am, you said you use ash to clean your dishes.
Yes.
I'm not sure what you mean by ash. Can you please explain?
Ash, it could be from logs that they burn to make, there are a lot of people who, right from you make havan, the homa, where you get the ash. So you're looking at
Okay,
ash.
okay,
Yeah.
yes.
It is the wood ash. So you can sieve it very fine, and that becomes a good scrubbing for your vessels. Like most of us, we buy some scrubbing, for especially stainless steel, your kadais and cookers and all that. You need something rough. So that along with shikakai powder is a very good natural material that you can use. So that's the ash I'm talking
Okay,
about.
thank you
Where
so
do you
much,
get ash? A
ma'am.
lot of people ask that question. So you could go to a temple, find out if they have had a homa or something like that, and then you can pick up ash from there. And there online also there are people who are selling ash.
Okay, thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you so much for taking all the questions, ma'am. Now I request our district YSC Krishna Marianka sir to speak a few words.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. I've been watching almost 90 minutes of talking from our social crusader, Vani Murthy, and I can tell you that you inspire not only the young Rotaractors, but also the old Rotarians. So thank you very much, ma'am. So of course, the formal vote of thanks will be delivered by the Rotaractors themselves. I'm sorry, I'm not able to talk because of the bandwidth issue. So you can only hear me.
Yes.
And I'm traveling currently.
Okay.
I just want to tell you, now, if you have been doing so much, and I've read so much on the newspapers and so many things, and we're so proud to, have your patternship and kind of association with Rotary for such a long time. I'm just wondering, because see, I was just wondering, if you have waste management in India falling under the purview of Union Ministry of Environment, Forests and Climate Change. And I'm saying maybe you could write to our beloved Prime Minister of India and tell them there should be a separate ministry for just waste management.
Yes.
It's such a wide, important topic. Wherever there is waste, it is a waste. It just doesn't have to be in forest or anywhere else. So I'm just thinking maybe with your, kind of crusade shape that you have done so much, you could probably write to them saying, create a separate ministry. I mean, we have so many ministries for so many other things. Possibly that you could consider a minister only for this particular waste management is what India needs. So that is one part. The rest of the things is like, I'm not sure, but maybe you have already done in a way, but if you could see a partnership opportunity with Rotary to set up what is called as waste management institutes or academy, that is something, I mean, you are coaching so many of these Rotaractors here today. They're inspired. I could see 300, 400 people listening to you from different, maybe more through YouTube, or I'm not sure. But if you are able to inspire so many, and so many are looking up to you for guidance, coaching, please see if you can have an opportunity to open up one academy or an institution just to manage waste management, because you have so much of knowledge on this.
Thank you.
And it should not, just go away with this, it's a one-off talks kind of a thing. I'm sure you do it all the time. However, I request, please explore an opportunity with Rotary or Rotaract, for example, to set up an academy, maybe to begin with in Bangalore or another city. And then it could go to every city, a new institution. And you can imagine the number of young people who are really wanting to by wanting to, solve the problems of India, under the Swachh Bharat mission. I think Rotaractors will learn from you. Maybe you could, head the institutions in all the cities, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. Tier 3 is also a problem, you're aware, tier 3, tier 2, everywhere there is a problem. So if you could guide and set up this, formalize this kind of institution, I think Rotary might be, interested to support you in this initiative. And because you have so many Rotaract youth volunteering with you, you could probably run this. Maybe some of them would just come up and take a, learning like a, kind of bachelor's degree in waste management. I don't know, I'm just telling you. So please consider this. This is my desire, that something like this, if you could do that, I think it helps the entire country and you will be a part of the nation building, which you already do. So thank you very much. So my talking to my students, my Rotaractors here is just, if you please understand that waste management India is not a, we had a 16-year-old until, 16-year-old rules book, which was replaced in 2016. Earlier we had it in 2000. So there are different kinds of waste generation. You have household generation, you have e-waste, you have solid waste, you have all kinds of waste that are being produced. And the worst part is that, these segregations at source is mandatory. Still, we are not unable to do all this. So my request is all the Rotaractors join initiatives, particularly, and from 2014, India has inaugurated the Swachh Bharat mission, which is a 5-year-old nationwide cleanup effort that is going on. And I think before this national consolidated effort for systematic and total waste management came into common consciousness, I think many cities and towns in India had already launched individual efforts directed at municipal waste, collection of segregated waste. It could be different in different cities. In Ladakh, it is probably called, Project Sangada. In Chhattisgarh, it's a different name. Karnataka, you have the Bangalore, Bruhat Bengaluru Mahanagarapalike doing it. Maharashtra, it's a different thing. So I think it's a nationwide challenge, and I request all of you to pay extreme attention. Rotary supports one of the focus areas is health and hygiene, and which means that you will have solid opportunities to kind of take part in the Swachh Bharat mission. So please focus on this. It has been a fantastic program today, and I was pleased to come here and talk to all of you. I think Vani Murthy has spoken so much, and I think all these are, kind of very important points. Please see how best you can partner with the ideas that she has generated or advised you this evening. And I wish you all the best. Congratulate the Rotary Club for having, kind of really initiated this particular, kind of program where people from across the country are participating here. So congratulations. Thank you very much and all the best. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And Dr. Meenakshi Bharat is a Rotarian, and she's doing phenomenal work. We all belong to the same team. So
I'm a bit surprised. I'm a bit surprised you're not a Rotarian yet. We will want you to become a Rotarian.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Yes,
I'll take all your suggestions and I will suggest it to my team as WMRT.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll take it.
Yes, please. Please take it up to the highest level possible. We need one waste management minister. We don't need anything else.
Right.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I request Manjunath, the Hasiru committee chair. This year in Rotaract, we have a Hasiru committee. So Manjunath is the chair. I request Manjunath to speak a few words.
Good evening, ma'am. So this is Rotaractor Manjunath Nag, the chairperson of Hasiru committee, RID 3190. So I just saw your profile, ma'am, just 1 week before when we are started this initiative. So really it is amazing, ma'am. There are many things to learn from you. Each one of our Rotaractors will be inspired by your activities and the thing which you have told till now. So everything will be, if our Rotaractors are adopted all these things, surely they can make the change in the society. That is what we were expecting to do it. So even as Krishna Marianka sir was also telling that to have waste management ministry, everything. So this is what the change that we could expect from from you, ma'am, actually. So there are other things going on, and we can see Swachh Bharat, all those things. But still, if you have separate kind of ministry kind of initiatives, surely that will be reach out to the many people across the world. So that is what we wanted to see, ma'am. Really, your initiatives and everything will be inspired to our Rotaractors. So your each one word differentiated the things and explained it to the mark, and you have given the certain simple example which is there in around us only. So if we make all those changes, so one by one, not everything in a one time, but still one by one, if we could make certain changes within us, surely we can also set up the example for few others also. So that is what we can see. And turning out people taking out 1,000 registration and participating around 350 participants, and that too we could see 5 to 6 o'clock, and still it is going on. This is what the expectation from everybody that we can see, ma'am. And when the word which we could hear from Vani Murthy, ma'am, and everybody turned out and just to make it happen. And we would really like to thank everybody for their participation and their interest. So once again, I'll just congratulate the organizing team as well as the ma'am for your valuable time. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Now the project chair, Rotaractor Dr. Tulsi Jagdish, will present the formal vote of thanks.
Thank you, Chetan. It's my privilege to propose the vote of thanks. I, Rotaractor Dr. Tulsi Jagdish, on behalf of Rotaract Bangalore West, extend my heartfelt vote of thanks to our speaker, Vani Murthy ma'am, who has taken time out from her busy schedule and agreed to do this webinar or workshop immediately when approached. So an event like this cannot happen overnight. The process of planning, promoting, and executing started happening weeks ago with constant support from our president, Rotaractor Chetan Krishna, and a district Hasiru committee chaired by Rotaractor Manjunath and co-chaired by Rotaractor Giselle. A special thanks to all of them. I'm immensely thankful to all the 25 partnering clubs which have helped us to reach out to a greater audience. And also a special mention to Rotarian Krishna Marianka sir, District Rotary Youth Service Director, who has graced the occasion and provided us with this platform. Last but not the least, I'd like to extend a heartfelt gratitude to all the audience who've taken interest and participated in this workshop. Being a Sunday evening, it's not that easy. So thank you to all of them right now. So let's take a step towards change. So let's move towards zero waste lifestyle. Let's influence more people and let's fight climate change. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Tulsi. Can we click a picture? Can all the participants turn on their videos?
Go green.
No, I think we're going to say EcoWill with this. Yeah. Let's all say EcoWill. Okay. On the Chetan, are we ready?
Yeah. So I'll probably have to click 4 pictures due to the number of participants. So all of you say EcoWill 4 times.
Okay, let's do.
Ready for the first picture? 3, 2, 1. Smile. EcoWill.
EcoWill.